Hey folks, this is Darius Spearman, and the people have spoken. I'm back for another installment of Say What? Welcome back to African Elements. If you're new to this channel, we're taking Black and Africana Studies material and bringing it to the masses. In this series, we're examining specific claims that relate to Black studies to determine where they fall short in meeting their burden of proof. This week, we revisit Dane Calloway in his latest video, The American Negro is the American Indian. We were already here. If you already know the rules, just skip over to here. But for now, let's go over the criteria for establishing whether this claim warrants belief. I'm going to hold up a red light, yellow light, or a green light. Green means go, but I'll hold up a yellow light or red light whenever I come to a point where I need to slow down or stop. That's either a bold claim with no evidence, a vague, overly broad, simplistic, or unfalsifiable claim, meaning there's no way to determine whether the claim is true or false, or something that's logically fallacious. Some logical fallacies include circular reasoning. This is true because it's true. We see that most often when somebody makes a claim and then says a bunch of things that don't support the claim, and then just repeats the claim. Repeating the claim doesn't demonstrate that the claim is true. We'll see that a lot. Other fallacies include shifting the burden of proof. This is true. Do your research. If you find somebody saying that in support of a claim, just point out, hey, you're the one making the claim. It's not on me to go research your claim. Also, we have arguments from ignorance, which you commonly hear in statements like, well, how else would you explain it? Related to arguments from ignorance are arguments from incredulity. How is it possible that we're on a spinning globe? I don't feel us moving. The fact that someone may not understand how we can be on a rotating sphere and yet not feel any motion isn't evidence that we're not on a rotating sphere. Those are the most common examples of logical fallacies, but there are many, many others that I'm sure we'll encounter. So let's jump in.
Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with the original Black American Indians. Black Lives Matter is a propaganda to keep blacks thinking that they're African Americans that came on slave ships. We already know we are waking our people up to let them know that we are the American indigenous Indians. Black Lives Matter do not represent our people. We do. Jesse Jackson do not represent our people. Barack Obama do not represent our people. We're not African Americans. We're indigenous. African American is Obama. Why? Because his mother's European and his father's Kenyan. That's an African American. A real Indian, American Indian is me. Both of my parents are American Indians, not from Africa. What?
Okay, so here we have an example of circular reasoning. She makes a claim, then goes on to say words that have nothing whatsoever to do with the claim that she's making, and then she just restates the claim as if naming various people that she doesn't believe represents black folks has somehow proven her claim. Let's keep going.
That's why y'all look at me funny. Like I'm African. You're not though. Like you're not. 80% of slaves was already here. It was natives. It's crazy.
80, where you get that number from?
Right. Shit, I just checked the books.
Which book?
Yeah.
I got a whole laptop full of it.
Yeah?
Yeah, just for me reading. It's not a solid book like, hey, there's only 1,000 slaves came here. And nah, man, you gotta read. You have what?
Okay, so that's a common tool of the conspiracy theorists, from flat earthers to moon hoax deniers. Black people are the original inhabitants of the Americas. Do your research. No, you're the one making the claim, so you're the one who bears the burden of providing the evidence to support the claim. Otherwise, that which is asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Let's keep going.
People don't understand. Black people did not just come from Africa. Black people were already in the States. People don't know that though. They don't get that part. You know, they don't know that Nat Turner was really an Aborigine. ain't African. You can look at Nat Turner and the depictions of him and know he was an Aborigine. He had a
What?
Okay, so this is kind of baffling to me. What is your criteria for saying that he looks indigenous? If you're saying that he looks black, then that's circular reasoning. If you're saying that he looks Native American, then basically you're acknowledging that black people and Native American are visually distinct from one another. In any case, what something looks like isn't necessarily proof of what it is. That's an appeal to common sense. Common sense or not, you have to actually demonstrate it. What is your method for demonstrating that something is what it appears to be? Let's see what else he has to say.
different vibe about it. So people don't like really know that. Not all black people did not come from freaking Africa. Because it's going to be very difficult for you to make it in that goddamn ship at the bottom of that goddamn ship for 3 months. When the food get low. Do the math. For real. Do the motherfucking math. Seriously, and just ushering everybody in on boats the long goddamn way. They not stopping. Ain't no bathrooms on that mother. Come on now.
What?
Okay, so here we have an argument from incredulity. Actually, I have done the math. According to most reliable estimates, about 2 million died on the Middle Passage over the course of nearly 4 centuries. That doesn't take into account those that died on the way to the coast even before they got to the slave ships, and nor does it take into account the heavy toll that the seasoning process extracted on the survivors of the Middle Passage. I have a video on the Middle Passage that explores that in more detail, but to deny that great disaster puts him on the same level as Holocaust deniers. So I think I'm done with this guy. In short, personal incredulity isn't proof of anything. He basically goes on to say the same thing, only louder and without evidence other than his own personal incredulity. So let's add circular reasoning to this one.
Can I just end with this one thing? These 4 brothers sitting here, we didn't all come from Africa. And there was there was a country before 1492, and our history goes way beyond 1492. So you can't start us at 1492. We were always here. We were always here.
What?
So this clip has been making the rounds with folks who are supporting claims about blacks being the original inhabitants of the Americas. That sentence was just tacked on to a 12 or so minute video, and the rest of the video has nothing whatsoever to do with that claim. So, and he doesn't go into, we don't know the context, he doesn't go into depth about what he means in that statement. You can actually check out the entire video linked below in the description, but unless we can find something more extensive where he expands on that, and I've looked, he hasn't said anything more about it, this would be an example of quote mining.
If you want to talk about indigenous people in America or Native Americans, they always dealt with extraterrestrials. They called them the star people. And yes, they were black. This is where the word Indian comes from the Latin word indigo, okay, which means blue-black, and it's a skin color.
What?
Wrong. India gets its name from the people originating from around the Indus River. The word indigo shares the same root because the dark blue dye that gives indigo its color was imported originally into Europe from India. It has nothing whatsoever to do with skin color. That is just flat wrong.
Okay? And so the Indians that you see today are what you call $5 Indians, okay, which are Caucasians, actually white people, okay? And go look up the Dow's Commission, go read the Dow's rolls. Back in the day, white people was allowing other white people to sign the Dow's rolls saying that they was Native Americans in exchange for benefits and assistance from the government.
Okay, so that's sort of true, although the particulars aren't quite as he describes them. The Dawes Act of 1887 led to the wholesale breakup of indigenous land. The way that happened, though, was that the act required allotment of native land to be based on private ownership, as opposed to collective communal ownership, which was generally the way that land was traditionally held among native people. Under the act, any land that wasn't personally allotted was considered surplus lands that could be sold. That was one of the ways that native land was transferred to white ownership. As a result, native people lost about 100 million acres of their land, or about 2/3 of the land base that they held in 1887 when the Dawes Act was passed.
So all these Indians that own these casinos and own the land, and they got straight hair, and they look like goddamn Mexicans and Chinese people and white people, those are what you call $5 Indians. Those are descendants of the people who actually took the land and they acted like they was the people who the land got took from. Black people are the original Indians.
What?
I'll take composition fallacy with a side order of circular reasoning, please. A composition fallacy is when someone infers that something is true of the whole based on the fact that it's true of some part of the whole. Some non-indigenous people gain control of indigenous land, therefore non-indigenous people control indigenous land. No, that's not how logic works. He follows that with some circular reasoning, just restating without evidence that black people are the original Native Americans.
Godfrey, real quick. You know, as a full Nigerian, have you ever heard an oral tradition like, don't go out into by the river at night because you can get jumped by the white man and he'll bring you on a boat across the water?
I never heard any of that. All I heard, like my father would tell me stories, just Nigerian proverbs and stuff that it relate to just Africa.
What?
Here we have another argument from incredulity. I've never heard of this, therefore how could it be true?
Have you heard of a story? Pick one, any story of a war that took place where some of your kinfolk was captured and brought over to another landmass?
No.
What?
Yet another argument from incredulity. Not only do we have multiple first-hand accounts confirming that the Middle Passage took place, at least 2 African nations have apologized for their role in the Atlantic slave trade. In 1999, the president of Benin apologized for his nation's role in the slave trade, and in 2006, Ghana apologized to African American descendants of slaves. So there we have it. Let's do a final tally. Circular reasoning, 7. Shifting burden of proof, 1. Appeal to common sense, 1. Quote mining, 1. Factual errors, at least 1. Composition fallacy, 2. Arguments from incredulity, 3. Evidence, 0. Now, I had a few comments on the last video that said, well, you had to watch the other videos to know what he was talking about. Sorry, when you make a claim, it's on you to prevent the evidence for that claim. To say, go look at this other video or research it yourself is to shift the burden of proof. I'm saying this to move the discipline forward. Look, if you have evidence that proves that black people are the original inhabitants of the Americas, that would turn black studies upside down. If you could actually prove the claim, any serious scholar would be all over that. You have to be aware, though, that when you make extraordinary claims like that, you're going to be asked for evidence to justify the claim. Do your research, or I don't believe the Middle Passage took place, none of those are evidence for your claim. So if you want to turn the discipline of black studies on its head, bring your A game. Thank you for watching, and as always, a huge thanks to all those who supported me on Patreon. If you'd like to support this program for as little as $1 a month and get ad-free content, hit the link below in the description. Otherwise, a like and subscribe would also be greatly appreciated. I'll be uploading some more lesson-based content soon, so stay tuned, and I'll see you in the comments.